Below the crushing weight of 7 miles of ocean, where sunlight had never dared to penetrate, lay the Abyssal Station Lazarus. It was a gleaming, brutalist scar on the otherwise pristine, inky canvas of the Mariana Trench floor, a maze of titanium corridors, humming laboratories, and observation windows so thick they seemed to warp the very concept of light, stared out into an eternal abyss. Here, the only illumination came from the strange bioluminescent whispers of the deep. Dr. Kaelen Aris, his face etched with a decade of unspoken horrors, stared at the holographic schematics of Lazarus. A former Navy deep-sea biologist, he was a ghost haunting his own life. Discharged in disgrace after a deep-dive incident where he claimed to have seen a luminescent entity before his dive partner vanished. The official report called it nitrogen narcosis, a cruel dismissal of a truth that gnawed at his sanity. Now, Omnicorp, the monolithic biopharmaceutical giant, had lured him back with a king's ransom and a single devastating plea. His younger brother, Ben, chief engineer of Lazarus, had sent a garbled distress signal before the entire station went silent. 3 words, whispered through the static, echoed in Kael's nightmares. Don't trust the light. Tina Niemi, Omnicorp's CEO, a woman whose eyes held the cold, calculating glint of a predator, oversaw the mission from a surface vessel. She knew about the threat. She wasn't sending Kaelen to rescue. She was sending him because he was the only one who had ever encountered the creature and lived. His true mission was to retrieve a sample of the parasite for her bioweapons division. His brother was merely bait. Kaelen descended, the submersible's lights cutting through the obsidian water. Each foot plunged him deeper into a past he desperately tried to outrun, a future he couldn't comprehend. The pressure mounted, the sub groaning under the strain, mirroring the growing dread in his chest. The Lazarus loomed into view, an unlit tomb against the black. Its exterior hull, usually vibrant with work lights, was shrouded in an eerie silence. Docking was a nightmare, the automated systems unresponsive. Kaelen had to manually override the clamps, the sub lurching violently as it finally latched on. He entered through an emergency airlock, the hiss of depressurization, a chilling welcome. The air inside was cold, metallic, and carried a faint, sweet tang, a smell he couldn't quite place. His boots echoed in the silent corridors, the only sound the rhythmic thud of his own heart. The main power was out, emergency lights casting long, dancing shadows. He navigated the familiar layout, each step bringing back memories of Ben's excited calls, his infectious laugh echoing in these very halls. Now, only silence. He checked the crew quarters first, finding them empty, beds neatly made, personal effects undisturbed. No signs of struggle, no chaos, just absence. The medical bay was equally sterile, the surgical tools gleaming under the emergency lights. But then he saw it. A faint, luminous blue smear on the wall, pulsating softly. He touched it, the substance cool and slightly viscous. A prickle of unease snaked up his spine. This was it, the light. He continued his search, moving deeper into the research wing. The air grew heavier, the metallic tang more pronounced. He found a lab door ajar, and a faint, almost imperceptible hum emanating from within. Pushing it open, he saw her. Dr. Wren, the station's resident biologist, huddled in a corner, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. Dr. Aris? Is that really you? Her voice was a shaky whisper. Kaelen knelt beside her, his hand on his comms, speaking low. Wren, what happened here? Where is everyone? She flinched, pulling away slightly. The creature. It came from the hydrothermal vents. It got into the water supply. It's everywhere. She gestured wildly towards a section of the lab, a network of pipes that shimmered with that same ethereal blue light. It's taken them all. It's corrupted the systems. I'm the only one left. She seemed genuinely traumatized, her body trembling, her words tumbling out in a rush. Kaelen felt a surge of relief mixed with a potent dose of dread. At least one survivor. "Where's Ben?" he asked, his voice tight. Ren's eyes clouded. He went to the geothermal reactor. Said he had a plan to shut it down, to vent the steam, to starve the light. She shivered, but he never came back. Kaelen's gaze hardened. The geothermal reactor was the station's heart, its power source. If Ben was there, he was in the deepest, most isolated part of Lazarus. And if the creature was connected to the water supply, the reactor, with its massive steam vents, was the perfect place to create a catastrophic overload. "We need to get to him," Kaelen said, helping Ren to her feet. "Can you guide me? Where's the safest route?" Ren nodded, her movements stiff. Yes, of course. I know this station like the back of my hand. Follow me, but we have to be quiet. They can hear the light." As they moved through the labyrinthine corridors, Kaelen noticed a subtle change in Ren. Her pupils seemed slightly dilated, and sometimes, when she spoke, a faint, almost imperceptible blue glow emanated from the skin around her neck. He dismissed it as a trick of the emergency lighting, or perhaps his own paranoia. He'd been wrong before. They passed through a section of the hydroponics lab, the artificial sunlight casting a sickly green hue. Here, the blue light was stronger, pulsing gently from the water conduits, making the plants shimmer with an unnatural vitality. Ren hesitated, her eyes fixed on the glowing pipes. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she murmured, a strange reverence in her voice. Kaelen felt a jolt of alarm. "Beautiful? Ren, this thing is responsible for wiping out the entire crew." She blinked, the strange light receding from her eyes. Of course. My apologies, Dr. Aris. It's just the way it pulses. So alive. She quickly resumed her cautious pace. The route Ren chose led them through increasingly isolated sections of the station. Corridors grew narrower, the air colder, the metallic tang stronger. Kaelen's internal compass, honed by years in the deep, told him they were heading away from the reactor, deeper into the bowels of Lazarus, towards the original site of the hydrothermal vent breach. "Ren, are you sure this is the fastest way to the reactor?" he asked, his voice laced with suspicion. "My schematics show a more direct route through the main engineering decks." Ren stopped, turning to face him. Her eyes, usually a warm brown, now held a milky opacity, and the soft blue glow from her neck had intensified, spreading faintly across her cheeks. "The main engineering decks are compromised, Kaelen. Too many anomalies. This way is safer. Trust me." He didn't trust her. Not anymore. The words, "Don't trust the light," screamed in his mind. He looked at her, truly looked at her. Her skin, once healthy, had a translucent quality to it now, almost like stretched parchment. And then he saw it. A faint, internal luminescence, like tiny veins of blue fire, just beneath the surface of her skin. She was infected. "You're one of them, aren't you?" Kaelen whispered, his hand instinctively going for the emergency wrench he carried. Ren's expression shifted, the facade of terror melting away to reveal something colder, something ancient. A smile, slow and unnerving, stretched her lips. "One of them? Kaelen, I am the first, the Alpha. And soon, you will be too." As if on cue, the emergency lights flickered and died, plunging the corridor into absolute darkness. For a terrifying second, Kaelen was blind. Then, A soft, ethereal blue light pulsed from Ren's entire body, illuminating her in a ghastly, beautiful glow. Her skin was now almost entirely translucent, the network of luminous veins throbbing. Beneath, her eyes were milky blue orbs, devoid of pupils. And then, from the shadows, they emerged. They were the crew of Lazarus, but not as Kaelen knew them. Their movements were fluid, almost graceful, their bodies shimmering with the same unearthly blue light as Ren. Their skin, like hers, was translucent, revealing the intricate, glowing network beneath. Their faces were serene, their eyes opaque and blue. They were the Illuminated. They moved with a synchronized, silent grace, communicating not with words, but with rhythmic pulses of light across their skin, a silent, predatory dance. Kaelen knew then, with a bone-chilling certainty, that this was the Abyss Light. Not a monster in the conventional sense, but a colonial parasite, rewriting its hosts from the inside out. It wasn't killing them, it was times evolving, times them. Their strength was biological. The parasite, absorbed through the water, invaded the spinal cord and brain, granting its hosts incredible resilience to the crushing pressure of the deep. But it transformed them, turned them into something else entirely. Their skin thinned, became a living lantern. Their eyes, once windows to their souls, now reflected only the vast, empty darkness of the abyss. "Join us, Kaelen." Ren's voice, now a strange, echoing whisper, resonated in his mind, though her lips didn't move. The words were pulsed directly into his consciousness, a telepathic murmur carried on waves of light. "Embrace the light. Become one with the deep." The Illuminated advanced, their bodies radiating pulses of brilliant blue light, coordinating their movements like a shoal of predatory fish. Kaelen swung the wrench, connecting with one of them. The blow landed with a sickening thud, but the Illuminated barely flinched, its translucent skin absorbing the impact with uncanny resilience. It reached for him, its glowing fingers brushing his arm. A searing cold shot through him, a faint blue tendril of light already trying to burrow into his skin. He recoiled, terror giving way to a desperate surge of adrenaline. Ren was leading him to the most heavily infected area of the station, a feeding ground, a place where he would be assimilated. He wasn't going to let that happen. He wasn't going to become one of them. He spun, dodging another lunge, and sprinted back the way they came, towards the main engineering decks. He knew his way around Lazarus, even in this hellish glow. His priority, the geothermal reactor. He could still cause a steam explosion, flood the station, render it uninhabitable to the light. It was a desperate, suicidal plan, but it was his only chance. The chase was a nightmare blur of pulsing blue light and desperate shadows. The Illuminated were faster than he remembered, their movements eerily silent. He heard the faint, rhythmic pulse of their light-based communication, a silent symphony of hunters closing in on their prey. He slammed doors shut behind him, but they were quickly breached. The Prosid, Illuminated simply flowing around the obstacles, their bodies unnaturally flexible. He reached the main engineering access hatch, a massive reinforced door. He scrambled to activate the manual override, his fingers fumbling with the controls. Just as the heavy door began to groan open, the Illuminated descended upon him. He fought with the savagery of a cornered animal. The wrench became a blur, connecting with glowing limbs, cracking against translucent skulls. Each strike sent ripples of blue light through their bodies, but they just kept coming, their silent, coordinated attack slowly wearing him down. One of them managed to grab his arm, its cold touch sending another wave of sickening blue light through him. He screamed, tearing free, the skin on his arm now faintly glowing where it had touched him. The parasite was trying to get in. He stumbled through the partially open hatch and slammed the emergency lockdown button. The heavy door hissed shut just as the first illuminated slammed against it, their glowing bodies pressing against the Titan steel. He was safe, for now. He was in the main engineering deck, a vast cavern of pipes, conduits, and the thrumming heart of the station, the geothermal reactor. The air here was thick with the smell of ozone and steam, a welcome change from the sweet, metallic tang. And then he saw it. A massive, pulsating bioluminescent cocoon, almost 6 feet tall, hung suspended near the reactor core. It pulsed with an intense, mesmerizing blue light, strands of it extending into the surrounding pipes, feeding on the station's energy. And within it, partially obscured by the glowing organic material, was a figure, Ben. His brother's face was visible through a thin membrane of the cocoon, his eyes closed, his body slowly being subsumed by the organic growth. He was pale, his skin already taking on that translucent quality, faint blue veins beginning to pulse beneath the surface. He was in the process of being assimilated, transformed. A wave of impotent rage washed over Kaelen. He had to save him. He had to stop this. He moved towards the reactor core, frantically searching for the emergency override panel. He knew the sequence. He'd helped Ben design it. If he could trigger a steam vent, a controlled explosion, it would destabilize the parasite's hold on the station. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot. Suddenly, a new wave of intense blue light flooded the reactor chamber. Ren and a dozen other illuminated poured through the newly opened access hatch. Their combined luminescence was blinding, casting bizarre, dancing shadows on the metallic walls. They didn't speak, but Kaelen felt the wave of their collective consciousness, a silent roar of triumph and anticipation. Ren advanced, her entire body a beacon of pulsing blue. "You cannot fight us, Kaelen. The light is inevitable. It is evolution." Kaelen ignored her, his eyes fixed on the override panel. He ripped open a cover, exposing a tangle of wires and pressure gauges. He needed to overload the system, bypass the safety protocols. The illuminated swarmed him. He lashed out, but his strength was waning. Their glowing fingers, cold as death, brushed against his skin, each touch leaving a faint blue imprint, a new tendril of the parasite seeking entry. He felt a burning sensation, a creeping numbness. His vision blurred at the edges, the blue light becoming almost intoxicating. He was starting to feel calm. No, he wouldn't give in. He wouldn't let them take him. He saw Ben, trapped in his glowing prison, and a surge of primal defiance coursed through him. His brother had sent a warning. Don't trust the light. Ben, the engineer, the problem solver. Ben wouldn't have just gone to the reactor to cause an explosion. He would have had a plan, a scientific solution. Kaelen's gaze fell on a small, reinforced safe mounted on the wall near Ben's cocoon. It was Ben's personal emergency safe, where he kept his most critical research notes, often jotted down in a frantic, almost illegible hand. With a renewed burst of strength, Kaelen fought his way towards the safe, dodging the attacks of the illuminated. He slammed his hand on the keypad, his fingers remembering the old family code. Ben's birthday. The safe hissed open. Inside, among a few personal items, were a stack of handwritten notes. Kaelen grabbed them, his eyes scanning the frantic scribbles. The illuminated closed in, their light pulsating with a hunger that was both alien and terrifying. His eyes darted across the page. Abyss light, colonial parasite, bioluminescent communication, frequency, sonar, vulnerability, sonar. Ben had been researching a countermeasure. Not an explosion, but a frequency. A weapon against the entity that had haunted Kaelen for years. The one he had seen in the deep. Ben, the engineer, understood sound, understood waves. The illuminated were almost on him. Kaelen ignored them, flipping through the notes. He found it. A precise sonar frequency, meticulously calculated, labeled Abyss Light Counter Frequency. He had no time for the reactor, no time for explosions. His brother had left him a key. He fought his way out of the reactor chamber, his glowing arm throbbing, his mind racing. He needed the communications center. He needed to broadcast that frequency. The journey back was a desperate scramble. The Illuminated were relentless, their attacks growing more coordinated, their light pulses a hypnotic, suffocating assault on his senses. He could feel the parasite spreading, a cold fire in his veins, whispering promises of peace, of unity with the deep. He reached the main communications center, a large cylindrical chamber with multiple consoles. He threw himself at the main console, his fingers flying across the controls, inputting the frequency from Ben's notes. The Illuminated poured into the room, their light engulfing him, their silent pulses screaming their triumph. Ren stood before him, her form radiating pure incandescent blue. "It's over, Kaelen. Embrace the light." Kaelen ignored her, his eyes fixed on the console, his fingers punching in the last digits. The system whirred to life, a low hum filling the chamber. He hit the broadcast button. A single, excruciatingly high-frequency sonar pulse ripped through the station. There was no explosion, no shattering of glass, no violent tremor. Just silence. The intense blue light emanating from Ren and the Illuminated flickered. Then, like candles caught in a sudden draft, they extinguished. The brilliant blue faded, leaving behind only the dim emergency lighting. Ren crumpled to the floor, her translucent skin now pale and lifeless. The other Illuminated fell with her, their bodies losing their unearthly glow, their eyes dulling to an empty gray. The colonial parasite was gone, dead. The Abyss Light, the terror of the deep, had been silenced. They were just bodies. Kaelen stood, his body trembling, the cold fire in his veins slowly receding. The glowing veins on his arm faded, leaving behind only the faint imprint of where the parasite had tried to take hold. He was exhausted, but alive. He raced back to the reactor chamber. Ben's cocoon, once pulsating with vibrant blue, was now a shriveled, brittle husk, its light extinguished. Kaelen tore at it, his fingers raw, until he reached his brother. Ben's skin was still translucent, his eyes still milky, but the faint blue glow beneath his skin was gone. He was unconscious, barely breathing, but he was alive. With a strength born of pure will, Kaelen dragged Ben to the nearest emergency escape pod. He strapped his brother in, his own body screaming in protest. He initiated the launch sequence. The pod detached with a shudder, leaving the silent, darkened Lazarus station behind. As they ascended, the pressure lessening with each foot, Kaelen looked out the viewport. The Abyssal Station Lazarus, once a beacon of scientific ambition, now lay submerged in eternal darkness, a silent tomb to the horrors of the deep. He had faced his demons, found his brother, and silenced the light. But the echoes of the abyss and the chilling memory of the blue glow would forever haunt his dreams.